What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today, of course, it is Monday, so we have our updated college basketball Power 40 rankings. Not too many changes, but a few big changes this week. And before we get started, I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We come out with these rankings every single week, along with a bunch of other college basketball content, so make sure you guys subscribe, and let's get into these rankings. All right, guys, here it is, the Dannyology Power 40 for week 7 of college basketball. Just a few more games, one more game or really no games for some teams until we get into league play, where we will have a ton of really good games, specifically in this stacked SEC conference. And let's go ahead and start at the top of these rankings, where we have 4 of our top 5 teams as SEC teams, and our number one, who has been our number one since I think week 2, the Auburn Tigers. And Auburn staying at number 1, staying true. A lot of people last week had Tennessee over Auburn because Tennessee was still undefeated, and Auburn did take a loss on the road to Duke, but I thought that was a pretty, a good loss, if you want to call a loss good, to a Duke team that is really good. It was a true road game, very tough place to play, and I believe that Auburn has a lot more really good wins, although Tennessee did pick up a really good one on the road this week against Illinois, which we will talk about, and that's why they're staying true at number 2. Being 2 is not a bad thing. I just don't think you're better than the team that's number 1. But Auburn, also very impressive road win on the road at Ohio State. Beat them down by a ton of points. That's the second time that Ohio State got blown out, but the first time that happened at home, it happened on the road at Maryland a few weeks ago as well. So not a good look for Ohio State, but for Auburn, that was a really nice win. Looked dominant, looked like the best team in the country still. They're staying here at number 1. Number 2, we still got Tennessee. As I mentioned, they did go on the road to a very good Illinois team, pick up a win. Chaz Lehner, Zakai Ziegler in foul trouble, still found a way to tough out that win, and on a buzzer beater layup, coast to coast, really good just play to bring it all the way down the court, push it to the basket, not just settle for a 3 there at the end. And Tennessee wins and stays undefeated. They are staying here at the number 2 spot for me. Number 3, also staying the same, we got Iowa State. Iowa State still been very impressive. I still believe they are one of the better teams in the country. They look like the best team in the Big 12 right now. They're here at number 3. Number 4, we got Kentucky jumping up 1 spot, mainly because Marquette fell. A lot of these teams here in the top 10 are going to jump up 1 spot, and Kentucky does that by holding down their home court there in Rupp against their rival Louisville. So they jump up 1 spot from 5 to 4. Florida jumping up from 6 to 5 as they got a really good win over Arizona State. Arizona State was actually in my rankings last week, but I did drop them out because they got dominated by this Florida team, and Arizona State, they don't really have that good of wins. Their best wins are against Grand Canyon and New Mexico, which are good wins for sure. But Grand Canyon and New Mexico haven't been as good as we really thought they would be. They're still good mid-major teams, but Arizona State still hasn't got that super good win against a power opponent, like a power team that is going to make the NCAA tournament. They were close against Gonzaga, but weren't able to get that one done. But yeah, Florida up here at number 5. Duke at number 6. They also jump up a spot due to Marquette dropping from number 4 to number 9. Looking pretty good there. Their Auburn win that originally got them back into the top 10 still helping them here at number 6. Number 7, we got Alabama. Alabama got another good win against Creighton. It was a home game for Alabama this time. They've been on the road a lot this year, and that was a really good win in the non-con for Alabama. Oklahoma staying undefeated. They beat their rival Oklahoma State, which is no longer a league game, as Oklahoma is now in the SEC conference. So they are staying undefeated, and they're jumping up from 9 to 8. And I had Marquette, since they did lose on the road at Dayton, fall 5 spots from number 4 to number 9. I decided to keep them in the top 10. I think Dayton is a really good team. That's a very tough environment, and they played in that one close. So that only their second loss on the year, and they were both close road games against top teams in the country in Iowa State and Dayton. Very tough environments. Marquette staying in the top 10 here at number 9. Number 10, we got Oregon holding strong here at number 10, as they were last week. Number 11, we do have Texas A&M. I thought that they had a very impressive win in Indianapolis against Purdue. Not necessarily a road game because it wasn't in Mackey Arena, but pretty much as close of a road game as you can get for a neutral site against Purdue, as wasn't that far away from Purdue, and Texas A&M was able to get that one done. So that was very impressive. That's the second time they've done something like that, as they did beat Texas Tech, which was almost a true road game for against Texas Tech, but wasn't. But they were able to beat them, and now Purdue, they're putting up together a nice little win streak here, and I like it. Texas A&M looks like they are going to be very solid for this entire year. We'll see how they are when they get into league play. They play in the toughest league in the country this year, so we will see. But they are knocking on the door for the top 10. Kansas staying true here at number 12. They did pick up one win against NC State this week after last week having a very hard time against Creighton on the road and Missouri on the road, picking up 2 losses. So they bounced back with a W, but I'm still holding them true here at number 12. Number 13, our biggest jumper of the week, we have the Dayton Flyers. As I mentioned earlier, they did beat Marquette this week, looking really good. So they are jumping up actually 20 spots this week from number 33 all the way up to number 13. They beat the top 2 teams in the Big East already this year. They beat UConn, and they beat UConn pretty bad on a neutral site earlier this year, and now they beat Marquette. Very impressive wins, and Dayton looking very solid. They're up here at number 13. Number 14, jumping up 1 spot, holding true, undefeated, is the Drake Bulldogs. They have a couple of impressive wins this year, staying undefeated at this point. Looking like one of the better mid-majors in the country. The Drake Bulldogs are here at number 14. Number 15, also jumping up a ton of spots, is the Memphis Tigers, and they're jumping up 19 spots. I thought that they had a very underrated win this week on the road against Clemson, and it went into overtime. They were able to get that one done. Very tough place to play. You can ask Kentucky. They went in there and lost already this year. So that was a very impressive win for Memphis, who I thought kind of lost a lot of momentum after they had a ton of momentum coming out of Maui. Lost it pretty much when they lost a home game to Arkansas State, which I do believe is the best team in the Sun Belt, but the Sun Belt's just not really that good of a league. But gained it all back and picked up another quad 1 win on the road against Clemson. Very impressive. So Memphis jumping back into my top 20 as they were, but I had to jump them out of the top 20 all the way into the 30s because of that loss to Arkansas State, and now they're back into the top 20 after that win on the road at Clemson. So Memphis, very impressive, looked really good. They're back at 15. Number 16, holding true, we got Michigan State. Didn't really do too much this week, but they've been they're a team that started Big Ten play, and they've been winning and looking really good, and they had a pretty good showing in Maui. Michigan State's here at number 16. Number 17, we got Vandy. Didn't do too much this week, but they're like 9-1 on the season. Might be 10-1 now, but their only loss is to my number 14 team, the Drake Bulldogs. Number 18, we do have UConn, another big jumper this week, jumping up 17 spots. They're on a 3-game win streak against really good opponents in Baylor, Texas, and now Gonzaga. Looking very solid. Beat Gonzaga in Madison Square Garden. Very close to a home game. Probably a home game for UConn in that one, but still very impressive to be able to knock off Gonzaga there. And going on that win streak against very good opponents is a way to get back into the rankings. After Maui, they fell completely out of the top 40 for me. They've slowly crawled their way back through the 30s, and now that big Gonzaga win, they're back into the top 20 here at number 18. Look out for the Huskies. They're starting to, get it back here, so we'll see. 19, we got the Georgia Bulldogs, and holding true here. They actually picked up another really good win against Grand Canyon, so they're getting a little bit more momentum heading into league play. They're going to need it. Georgia's one of those teams that I have a lot of question marks about heading into the SEC play. So if they are able to pick up a few good wins, then that's going to be the difference between them making and missing the tournament. I feel like I have them a lot higher than most, but I've had them here for a few weeks, ever since they beat St. John's, and they're here at 19. Number 20, we got Maryland. Maryland, I I actually think that they didn't play a game this week, so they are staying put here at number 20, but I've been very impressed with Maryland recently, looking very solid with Derek Queen, Julian Rice. They got Jacoby Gillespie looking very solid, and they're playing fantastic right now, so they're here at number 20. Number 21, we do have the Gonzaga Bulldogs dropping 10 spots after that loss to UConn. That is back-to-back losses against Kentucky and against UConn, and two really good teams for sure, but they had the fall. They had the fall after back-to-back losses. They're down here at number 21. Number 22, a team that Gonzaga did beat earlier in the year, that is San Diego State, so that is why they're coming in right behind San Diego State here at number 22, with San Diego State staying put. They did get a win against Cal Baptist, but it was a close one. Too close for comfort for the Aztecs there, but they are staying true at 22. Number 23, we got Purdue, and Purdue stunk it up this week against Texas A&M. I thought that was a game that they should have won. It wasn't a true road game necessarily, or a true home game necessarily for Purdue, but it was definitely pretty much a home game for them. They definitely should have won that game. They didn't look good. They let Texas A&M pull way too far. They were trying to climb back many times, but just were unable to do so. Texas A&M clearly looked like the better team in my opinion, and they're down here 9 spots to number 23, dropping from 14. Number 24, staying put, is Ole Miss. Didn't really do much this week, but Ole Miss does look like a pretty solid team. They are a team that barely did lose to Purdue, so it makes sense to have them ranked around the same spot here. 25, we got Mississippi State. Had a scare against McNeese at home, but they ended up winning that game, staying put here at 25. Number 26, we got St. John's. They haven't done much lately, but win the games that they are supposed to do, so that's why they've stayed at 26. I believe this is like the 3rd week in a row now that they've stayed at 26. They're doing what they're supposed to do, but nothing too impressive to move them up or down. Number 27, we got Illinois. I mentioned earlier they did lose to Tennessee by 1 point on a buzzer beater, so that was a tough break there for Illinois. Poor defense on that coast-to-coast play, by the way. But they definitely had their opportunities to beat Tennessee, and it was a home game, but it shows that they can compete with some of those top teams. And they do have 2 really good freshmen, and I think they just need some more experience. But I think that Illinois is going to be a contender this year for the Big Ten. The Big Ten's all over the place this year, and the reason they're jumping up 2 spots is because earlier in the week, before the loss to Tennessee, they did beat Wisconsin, so that was another good win. And they barely lost to Tennessee by 1 point. It was my number 2 team, and they're undefeated. So didn't really want to fall, but they do jump up 2 spots for beating Wisconsin and almost knocking off my number 2. Number 28, we got UCLA, another team that I think is going to be in the mix for the Big Ten. And yeah, they have one of the better defenses in the country, looking really good. Got another good win over Arizona. If you call Arizona a good win now, I'm not so sure. Arizona's been pretty stinky and one of the more disappointing teams in the country, but UCLA got it done. Been really impressed with them, especially the road win against Oregon. It did happen on a buzzer beater that banked in by Dylan Andrews, but UCLA has been playing very solid, especially on the defensive end. Look out for the Bruins. Clemson at number 29, dropping 8 spots after that loss at home to Memphis. That was a very good game, went to overtime. I still think Clemson's a good team, but they had to drop because it was a home game for them. I feel like it was one they should have won. They're here at 29. Number 30, staying put here, is Houston. Didn't really do too much. I expect them to climb. I've been waiting on it. We might have to wait until Big 12 play, but they're still here at number 30. Number 31, we got Wisconsin, dropping 4 spots after yet another loss to Illinois, but they did pick up a win later in the week, but they did lose 3 of their last 4, so they do have to fall, but I still think they are a pretty good team, and their wins earlier in the year, where they do have some pretty good wins, are kind of holding them up a little bit, but the Arizona win has devalued a ton. I think their best win is against Pitt, and that is why they're 1 spot ahead of Pitt right here. Also dropping 4 spots is the Pitt Panthers. Pitt's a team they didn't lose this week, but I felt like they had to drop with Wisconsin at this point because Pitt hasn't done anything, in my opinion, too impressive. In fact, recently, they beat Virginia Tech on the road, which Virginia Tech's not that good of a team, and they lost badly on the road to Mississippi State by like 40 points, so that wasn't good. Pitt's down here at 32. This is kind of the range I feel like they should be at. One spot ahead of their rival, West Virginia, who they did beat down. Similar to how they got beat down to Mississippi State, they beat West Virginia down at home. But West Virginia has looked a lot better since then. They've knocked off Gonzaga. They've beat Georgetown. They beat Arizona. They're here at number 33 with only 2 losses on the season. So they are dropping one spot here, even though they didn't lose this week. But they are dropping one spot down to number 33 to be behind Pitt. Number 34, we do have Utah State. And Utah State was a team that wasn't ranked for me last week. They've been an honorable mention for a few weeks now, but they're an undefeated Mountain West team. They don't have any too good wins yet, which is the reason why they haven't been ranked higher as an undefeated team. But we'll see as they get into Mountain West play. Utah State looks to be really good again, so they're here in the Power 40 this week at 34. Number 35, we do have the Baylor Bears jumping up 2 spots from 37 to 35. They didn't beat anybody too good at all, but they do jump up just because a lot of people around this range did fall out of their rankings last week. Arkansas, and I did want to put Baylor ahead of Arkansas, who is back into the rankings this week. Arkansas not ranked last week, but they did pick up a giant win over Michigan this week, which is actually going to go a long way as far as NCAA tournament bids, because I think Michigan is going to be a top contender in the Big Ten by the time the season's done. So this win for Arkansas is going to look really good, especially if they come out of the SEC with like an even record in conference play. You know, they might be a borderline team, and a non-con win against Michigan might really help them get in. So that was huge for Arkansas. They're back into the rankings here at 36. Michigan dropping 14 spots, even though they barely lost to Arkansas. I still think they're a really good team. This is just kind of like a adjustment drop for them, because I feel like I raised them too high last week, and they kind of got drugged back down to earth. Even though I only had them at, 23? And in the AP, they were all the way up at 14, which I thought was pretty crazy, and I thought was kind of brand bias there for sure. But I thought even at 23, I was like, they might be a little high, but I feel good about them at 23. This kind of an adjustment period, bringing them back down to 37. I feel like this is more where they're at right now, especially with their losses to Arkansas and Wake Forest. They do have some good wins too, but I had to bring them back down a little bit, and you could argue they should probably be ahead of Wisconsin because they beat Wisconsin, but I think they will surpass Wisconsin here by the end of the year for sure, if not within the next couple of weeks. I expect them to get back into the top 30, maybe even the top 20 eventually, so we'll see. I have high hopes for Michigan. What they do with Danny Wolf at point guard is super fun to watch. I'm excited for it, and yeah, Michigan's still in the rankings, though, at 37. Number 38, staying true, is Missouri. They entered the rankings last week after knocking off Kansas. We'll see if they can keep it up, especially as we get into SEC play. Cincinnati, big win over their rival Xavier. Wes Miller finally able to get it done there against Xavier. Cincinnati finally wins that rivalry for the first time since 2019. Big win for him. Cincinnati back into the rankings. They fell out ever since they lost to Villanova. They were in my top 20 like all year until they lost Villanova, and then they fell completely out of my rankings. I was like, no way they were losing to Villanova. That was a horrible loss. But they're back in the rankings now at 39. That was a good win against Xavier. We'll see if they can keep it up. And number 40, also not ranked last week, we do have the undefeated Loyola Chicago Ramblers. And the only reason, similar to Utah State, the only reason they haven't been ranked before is because they haven't picked up really any big wins, but Loyola is still undefeated. They're actually playing San Francisco right now as I'm recording this video, and they were winning as it is getting close to the end. So hopefully they hold on to this that win against San Francisco. That would be a good win for them. And if they do lose, then I'd probably have to find somebody else to put at 40. But Loyola Chicago here at number 40, assuming they win against San Francisco. That was a good win for them this week, and they come in to round out our rankings. So yeah, guys, that is it for the week 7 Daniology rankings. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who is too high? Who is too low? Who got snubbed? Let me know your biggest snubs from my power rankings this week. And yeah, guys, make sure you guys subscribe. We do come out with these every single Monday and a ton more college basketball content as well. So subscribe. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy, and thank you so much for watching.